Right now, somewhere on this planet, a child is being born who will never know your name. Not because they are far away, not because of language, but because the world you live in, the world of satellites and smartphones and 7 billion connected human beings, does not exist for them, has never existed for them, will never exist for them if they have anything to say about it. There are people alive today who have never seen a city, never heard an engine, never held anything made of plastic. People whose entire universe is the forest or the jungle or the island they were born on, and who have made it very clear, in the only language that needs no translation, that they want it to stay that way. Every satellite image of Earth shows us a planet that has been mapped, measured, divided, and connected. We tell ourselves we know this world completely. We don't. In the last unmapped places, in the last truly dark corners of the satellite image, 5 civilizations are still living exactly as their ancestors lived thousands of years ago. This is their story. Told carefully, told with the respect it deserves, and told with one question running underneath all of it. Who, exactly, is the primitive one? The Sentinelese, North Sentinel Island, India. We have spoken about them before, in another story. But no account of isolated tribes is complete without them, because the Sentinelese are the most extreme case on Earth, and the most important. North Sentinel Island sits in the Bay of Bengal, a green oval rising from turquoise water ringed by reef. 60 square kilometers of dense forest, home to a population estimated at somewhere between 50 and several hundred people. No one knows exactly, because no one has been allowed close enough to count. The Sentinelese have occupied their island for an estimated 50,000 to 60,000 years. They are, by that measure, one of the oldest continuous human communities on Earth. Their ancestors arrived on the island during the Great Human Migration out of Africa, in an era when Neanderthals still walked the Earth. And they have been there ever since. They have not changed because they have not needed to change. Their response to every attempted contact has been consistent and absolute. Arrows, spears, the clear, universal body language of people who have decided, collectively and finally, that the world outside their reef is not welcome. In 2018, American missionary John Allen Chow walked toward their beach and was killed. The Indian government, which maintains a legal exclusion zone around the island, chose not to pursue any legal action. The Sentinelese were within their rights, under Indian law and under international principles of indigenous sovereignty. They remain untouched, unbothered, on an island that belongs to them in every meaningful sense of the word. The Awa, Brazilian Amazon, deep in the eastern Amazon rainforest of Maranhão State, Brazil, live the Awa, a tribe that Brazilian indigenous rights organization FUNAI has called the most threatened tribe on Earth. There are approximately 450 Awa people remaining. Of those, approximately 100 are completely uncontacted, living in the deep forest with no relationship to the outside world, their existence known only from occasional aerial sightings and the traces they leave in the forest. The Awa are hunter-gatherers. They move through the forest in small bands, hunting with bows, gathering fruit and roots, living with an intimacy with their landscape that no field biologist has ever fully matched. They know every plant in their territory, every animal's behavior, the seasonal patterns of the forest with a precision that comes from living inside it, not studying it from outside. What threatens them is not curiosity, it is logging. The Amazon rainforest surrounding the Awa's territory has been devastated by illegal deforestation, Ranchers, logging companies, and land speculators pushing into indigenous territory with chainsaws and fire, reducing the forest that the Awa depend on for everything. Their world is literally being destroyed around them. The uncontacted bands are being pushed into smaller and smaller areas of intact forest with nowhere left to retreat. In 2011, Survival International released a statement calling the situation of the Awa a genocide in slow motion. The Brazilian government has, at various points, attempted to enforce the boundaries of Awa territory. Those enforcement efforts have been inconsistent, underfunded, and frequently reversed by political pressure from agricultural interests. The Awa are not choosing isolation because their world is safe. They are choosing it, or having it forced upon them, because the alternative is a world that is actively destroying everything they need to survive. The Korowai, West Papua, Indonesia. High in the rainforest canopy of West Papua, on the Indonesian side of New Guinea, the Korowai people build their homes in the trees. Not low in the trees, high. Some Korowai tree houses are built 35 meters above the forest floor, higher than a 10-story building, constructed from forest materials with an engineering knowledge that has been developed and refined over generations, in a landscape where the forest floor is swampy, flood-prone, and alive with things that bite and sting and kill. The Korowai were first contacted by outside researchers in 1974. In the decades since, the situation has become complex in the way that contact situations always become complex. Some Korowai communities have accepted varying degrees of interaction with the outside world, while others, deeper in the forest, have not. The deep forest Korowai, the communities that have had no sustained contact, live in a world defined entirely by the forest. They hunt wild boar and cassowary. They fish the rivers. They cultivate sago palms, whose starchy pith is their dietary staple. They conduct ceremonies that no outsider has fully witnessed or documented. Their treehouse architecture is not primitive. It is a sophisticated engineering response to a specific environmental challenge, one that keeps them safe from flooding, from ground-level predators, and from rival groups. It is a solution that works. It has worked for thousands of years. Seen from the air, their tree houses are invisible, absorbed into the forest canopy, indistinguishable from the surrounding trees unless you know exactly what to look for. That invisibility is not accidental. The Mashco-Piro, Peruvian Amazon. In the remote Madre de Dios region of the Peruvian Amazon, one of the largest groups of uncontacted people in the world moves through the forest in a pattern that outside observers have tracked for decades without ever making sustained contact. The Mashco-Piro, also known as the Curanjeño, number perhaps several hundred people, possibly more. They are nomadic, moving through a vast territory of rainforest that overlaps with legally protected indigenous reserves and national parks. They have been seen, photographed from a distance, observed gathering on riverbanks, sometimes calling out to river travelers in their language, occasionally accepting gifts left on the shore. These interactions are brief, guarded, and entirely on the Mashco-Piro's terms. When they choose to disappear back into the forest, they disappear completely. In recent years, they have been appearing at the edges of their territory more frequently, approaching villages, seeking food and metal tools. Researchers interpret this as a sign of stress. The intact forest at the center of their territory is shrinking. The game is less abundant. The conditions that made complete isolation sustainable are being eroded by the same forces destroying the Awa's world. The Peruvian government's official policy is non-contact. Researchers and indigenous rights organizations maintain a respectful distance. but the increasing frequency of their appearances at the forest edge suggests that the Mashco-Piro themselves may be approaching a moment of choice or being pushed toward one by circumstances beyond their control. The Jarawa, Andaman Islands, India. The Jarawa occupy approximately 1,000 square kilometers of jungle in the interior and western coast of South Andaman Island, part of the same island chain that contains North Sentinel. For most of the 20th century, the Jarawa were hostile to outside contact in the manner of the Sentinelese, responding to approaches with bows and arrows, retreating into the forest, making their position unmistakably clear. The Indian government maintained a policy of non-contact and attempted no forced interaction. Then, in 1998, something changed. A small group of Jarawa approached an Indian Coast Guard vessel, not in hostility, but in apparent curiosity. They accepted coconuts. They touched the boat. Contact, tentative and fragile, had been made. In the years since, the Jarawa situation has evolved into something more complicated and more troubling than simple isolation. A highway, the Andaman Trunk Road, runs directly through Jarawa territory, and despite legal protections, tourist buses use it. There have been documented cases of tourists throwing food to Jarawa people as if they were animals in a zoo. There have been documented cases of outsiders introducing the Jarawa to alcohol. There have been diseases. The Jarawa who made first contact in 1998 could not have known what they were opening the door to. The Indian Supreme Court has, at various points, ordered the closure of the highway through their territory. Those orders have not been fully enforced. The Jarawa are now in the most dangerous position of any isolated tribe, no longer fully isolated, not yet safely integrated, navigating the boundary between two worlds without adequate protection from either side. These five peoples, the Sentinelese, the Awa, the Korowai, the Mashco-Piro, the Jarawa, are not relics. They are not primitive. They are not living museum exhibits for the curious gaze of the connected world. They are human beings, with families, with knowledge, with history, with cultures of extraordinary depth and sophistication, with a relationship to their landscapes that no university course has ever fully replicated. And they are all, to varying degrees, under threat. Not from their own choices, from ours. The deforestation that is destroying the Awa's world is driven by global demand for beef and soy. The tourism that exposed the Jarawa to exploitation is driven by curiosity, the same curiosity that makes documentaries like this one possible and necessary and complicated. The question underneath all of these stories, the question that runs through every account of isolated peoples in the modern world, is one that does not have a comfortable answer. Do we have the right to look? And if we do, what are we obligated to do with what we see? The satellite images are complete. Every square kilometer of Earth's surface has been photographed, mapped, cataloged. The last white spaces on the map have been filled in. Except they haven't. Because a map is not a world. A satellite image is not a culture. A coordinate is not a person. The people living in those last green patches of unlogged Amazon, on that island in the Bay of Bengal, in those tree houses 35 meters above the forest floor, they exist entirely outside the world the map describes. They are the proof that the map is incomplete, that the satellite sees the surface but not the depth, that knowing where something is tells you almost nothing about what it is. They do not know you exist. You now know they do. What you do with that knowledge, whether you carry it with respect or with the restless, consuming curiosity that has already cost so many of these communities so much, is a choice that belongs entirely to you. Choose carefully. If this story made you think about what isolation means, what sovereignty means, what we lose every time a culture disappears, share it with someone who needs to think about it too. Subscribe, because the most important stories are not about the loudest people. They are about the ones who have chosen silence and the ones who are protecting it with everything they have.